You too, jealous of
They're here.
I'm feeling so excited. I'm a beautiful woman. I have a handsome man, and I'm going to move to the US with him.
Right.
It's my fairy tale. Everything just became like everything was falling apart.
Every minute felt like an hour. Like, how could you do this to me when I've done so much for you?
I'm here. I should be happy. I should be living my fairy tale. I just dream about all these different.
You may or may not have recognized the couple in that very dramatic scene. If you didn't, meet Sean and Aaliyah. And if you did recognize them, you know that before this new season of 90 Day Fiancé, that these two previously appeared on Love in Paradise. But this particular teaser scene on the new 90 Day Fiancé season purposely doesn't tell us much about the status of their relationship at the end of the show. They did show us that there was a wedding, but did Aaliyah really walk down the aisle? We don't know. Did Sean really get left at the altar? Or was this some sort of staged editing trick to keep us watching? Of course, it's early in the season. It's not supposed to be clear yet. We obviously are supposed to watch the season to find out. Because even when you see Aaliyah in tears post-wedding day, talking about how everything is uncertain, is she twisting her wedding ring in her hand? Her hand is just out of the shot. So none of this type of drama or vague teaser scene is unusual for a 90 Day Fiancé introduction. But this relationship that Sean and Alliya have is definitely a unique one. And if you have watched season 4 of Love in Paradise, you know that Aaliyah's transformation isn't the only complicated part of this. Even if they did make it down the aisle and this wedding drama was all faked for the cameras, Sean too brings in some complicated factors that could also end this relationship. And it's things that aren't really mentioned yet on this 90 Day Fiancé season. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Sean and Aaliyah's Love in Paradise season, and then we will go over where they are in the new 90 Day Fiancé season. My goal is to show you their entire story and give you as much information as possible about their relationship, because so far it seems like 90 Day Fiancé is leaving some key pieces out, and this will give you a clearer perspective on if you are truly rooting for this couple or not. So let's talk about Sean, Aaliyah, and how both of their lifestyles will either bring them together or destroy their relationship for good.
Awesome!
We first met Sean on Love in Paradise.
I'm Sean. I'm 61 years old, and I live in New York City and also Los Angeles, California, and do celebrity hair for television and film production.
61 years old. I want you to keep that number in your head, because when I first watched this, I was so distracted by other parts of their relationship that I kind of forgot that Sean was in his 60s. Also, when you're introduced to Aaliyah, the focus that completely takes over the storyline is that she is recently identifying as a woman.
When I first met Aaliyah, she was he and he was Douglas. Yeah, it's a little complicated.
Douglas and Sean spent their time going on trips, enjoying traveling around together.
We were in Spain to participate in Gay Pride, and Douglas was asked to be on a float.
And that's when Sean meets Douglas's persona, as he calls it.
He got asked to go on a float, going down the streets of Spain with people hooting and hollering, and so Aaliyah was born. And he's usually shy, quiet, introverted, and now he's dancing and smiling, and I'm like, who is this?
Sean encouraged Aaliyah to be her true self, knowing that this discovery made her happy. But then soon realized that Aaliyah had completely taken over, and there was no more Douglas, and that was a major change. And it made it difficult for Sean to know what would be next for them and their future together, which I think is fair. The person he met and fell in love with was now coming out of their shell and very different.
I'm the one that opened the Pandora's box, and now I don't know where our future's going from here.
Just to clear this up, Sean was married to a woman for 14 years and had 3 kids.
I've always been attracted to girls and boys. I've been having relationships with primarily men.
So Aaliyah being Aaliyah isn't as much of an issue. It's more just that Aaliyah used to be Douglas, and Douglas was who he fell in love with. But he does say that the question of if Aaliyah was going to fully transition And now that she was showing a very different side of her personality, she was very outgoing, outspoken, it made Sean feel confused.
I fell in love with Douglas. And now you're asking me to kill Douglas. I can't kill Douglas.
Which I think is fair. He describes Douglas at one point as reserved and quiet, and that's who he fell in love with. And now he's watching, like we are, Douglas transform into an outgoing and confident Alliya. So when Sean does fly out to Brazil, that's the entire focus of this very unique story. We then meet Alliya, and we learn about how she's really discovering who she really is, gaining this confidence to live her life the way she wants to. And she does credit meeting Sean for her transformation.
Once I was in a relationship with Sean, everything ended.
He made her feel like she could be herself. But there is another big part of this story that seems to just pretty much get skipped over. And I think it's very important. We are so zoned in on this dynamic of Sean adapting to Alliya. But remember earlier when I asked you to keep Sean's age in your head? 61. He's 61 years old on Love in Paradise. And when Alliya introduces herself, she says that she is 25 years old. So that gives this couple a massive age gap of 36 years. And that age difference isn't really mentioned much on Love in Paradise, which I think is wild. If we didn't have this Alliya transformation going on, it definitely would be a part of the conversation. Because in a relationship with that kind of an age gap, there is 100% a power dynamic involved in it. And we will circle back to this. So when Sean does land in Brazil, we know for sure that Alliya is the one that Sean is visiting, not Douglas.
Alliya is who I am, is not like a character that I'm playing.
I think that cleared up any question for Sean of if Douglas was truly completely gone or not. And I have to say, Sean seems to be very supportive at first. He brings her all of this hair to wear.
Oh god, I can swim here.
But when Sean and Alliya talk about things like cosmetic surgeries that Alliya wants to do to her body, that I'm guessing Sean is paying for, there is this new confidence from Alliya that Sean is not used to.
If there is something on my body that I want to change, I am free to do that.
Right.
She wants more curves to feel more feminine. And I could see how that would be a difficult change for Sean. He's going to possibly pay for these surgeries, and he's not even really sure how he's feeling 100% yet.
I mourned the loss of the first chapter, and now it's this metamorphosis has happened. So I want to focus my energy on what is and not what was.
But he does seem to lean into it, agree to what Alliya wants to do, and he even proposes. So I think the proposal answers the question of if Sean wants to marry Alliya and bring her to the US and not Douglas. But back to that power dynamic, you do also notice that as Alliya gets more of a voice, that they seem to struggle to get along as well.
My biggest fear is moving to other country, have a new life, and continues being controlled by someone.
Sean has called the shots in the relationship. He was the one taking them on trips, and now I'm assuming paying for these surgeries. And he did describe Douglas as introverted, a lot quieter.
The reality of the whole thing is that I met somebody, I fell in love with somebody, I was ready to marry somebody, I had all my boxes checked, and that person died.
Now Alliya has what Sean describes as a more outgoing personality, and that seems to challenge Sean more. She starts to push back and make some demands of her own. And she does this specifically on the parts of their relationship that she doesn't like. One of those things being that they have an open relationship.
Last year, we traveled to Spain. Then I noticed that he have like apps that you can date someone and that the relationship was open.
So that wasn't clear until I would say like halfway through Love in Paradise, more towards the end. I didn't get the impression that they had an open relationship until Alliya pointed it out.
I never wanted to be in an open relationship, but that's like something that Sean wanted. We are engaging now, we are going to the next step of our lives, and I want us to be monogamous.
But when she brings this up, Sean doesn't really agree to stop the open relationship.
I didn't assume we were having a monogamous, exclusive relationship while we were trying to even figure out a way we could even meet. Then as we met and got together, we really only saw each other a few weeks.
In a way, I get that. They didn't know at one point if they could even be together in the US, and they were only seeing each other on trips. But the fact that Aaliyah didn't have a voice in any of this, it definitely shows that Sean has been the one to have more of a say and more power in their relationship in general. Because now that they're talking about it, this specific conversation goes from talking about their open relationship to talking about how Aaliyah's stronger personality
Douglas actually is the past, and Alliya is the present, and that's it.
Is a problem for Sean. He pretty much avoids the entire open relationship conversation altogether and focuses on the fact that he's struggling with Aaliyah's strong personality.
You could be the boss bitch, but you can't be the boss bitch of me.
I also think that Sean is avoiding talking about the open relationship because I get the impression that even engaged, Sean is still working through mourning Douglas in some way.
I'm hoping that we can find a mutual acceptance of what's happening.
I can't imagine that these decisions with getting engaged and then getting the K1 visa are easy with their new dynamic, but Sean adds another element to this that makes this even more confusing. During a dinner, Alliya says that she has a compromise for the open relationship issue. She says that she is okay with it for now if it stops when she gets the K1 visa and comes to the US and they start their 90 days. But that's when this just gets like strange to where I was thinking before, maybe Sean shouldn't go through with this because he's not sure about how he feels. He loves Douglas and he's trying to find out if he loves Alliya. But on the Alliya side, Alliya is still coming into herself. She is learning who she is. I don't necessarily think that her getting married while she's doing this is a great idea. She hasn't even been Alliya for that long. But now with what Sean is about to say, I think Alliya really needs to take a step back. So Alliya says, hey, we can continue this open relationship as long as you hook up with someone random. And you're like, wait, what? And she doesn't want it to be someone that will continue to be friends with Sean and be around when she comes to the US. Kind of a bizarre request, but I guess I sort of get it. And his response also makes sense.
I mean, if I'm going to have an experience, I'd rather feel like it's a safe one and that I'm in a safe space versus doing something that feels random.
But then he says this.
If Leah wants me to guarantee that anybody that I've been with won't be a part of our lives, I'm not feeling like I want to sign off on that.
Excuse me, what?
It sounds like Alliya feels threatened by someone that Sean is hooking up with. And it sounds like this person is like a pretty good friend that's around. And I think that's a big deal. Sean says that it's just a casual sexual relationship that he has. But I feel like Alliya is speaking up and Sean is just kind of playing it off like it's not a big deal and it's not even like anything important. I think it is. I feel like there's something going on there that is going to come up later on 90 Day Fiancé while Alliya is in the US. Because Alliya is saying that she would prefer him to sleep with random people and not this person. I find that really interesting. And that's huge. I think that that situation is just as important as their journey with Alliya's transition. Sean has a relationship with somebody in his friend circle. So when Sean leaves, a lot is left up in the air. But to wrap up Love in Paradise and move on to 90 Day Fiancé, they are reintroduced and we find out that Sean is still adjusting to Alliya. And Alliya is getting ready for her K1 visa interview.
Aaliyah's visa interview for the K1 is tomorrow.
When they're introduced, though, nothing is mentioned about their open relationship, the relationship that Sean has in the US still, because you know that their deal was that Alliya had to pass the interview and come to the US for their open relationship to not be open anymore. But we go to focus on this big interview. And they have a very different extra stressor added into this.
I'm also a little worried that she shows up and they look at a form and it says Douglas and male, and that they might have some discrimination going on there and deny her just because they can.
Sean also says that this is really their last shot because they got denied for all the other visas. So Alliya's decision to go dressed as a boy or girl is not taken lightly. She does end up going dressed the way she feels comfortable.
I did not encourage Alliya to not be anything but Alliya at the interview. But when Alliya shows up at the interview and they're expecting a Douglas, if the interviewer is transphobic, that could be the end of our journey right then and there.
She goes into the interview and we find out on episode 5 that she is approved.
I was really worried about how you'd be treated, but in the embassy, everything was amazing.
And I have to say, she looks absolutely beautiful. So now she is truly headed to the US to start her 90 days, which I guess means that open relationship is shut now, right? But they still don't mention anything about Sean's friend he hooks up with in their open relationship. So is that going to come up soon? Because it's a really big thing we're missing here. Instead, the focus shifts to how Sean knows that his kids are not going to handle learning he's getting married well.
My 3 children and some of my closest friends don't know that Aaliyah is, that she even exists, that she's coming to the US.
He also admits that he isn't completely clear on how he's feeling about the relationship still, which he only has 90 days now to figure it out. The only person going into this that knows everything about Sean and Aaliyah's relationship on Sean's side is his mom. And that makes both Alliya and her family nervous. Sean basically hasn't said anything to his family besides his mom about Alliya.
I'm so excited about my new life in America, but in the same time, it scares me that Sean's still keeping me a secret.
So that's pretty much where they end in this 90 Day Fiancé season as I'm making this video. We are still not being told the information about the open relationship on 90 Day Fiancé yet, and on the next episode it looks like Sean is hesitant about marriage, which with their situation I could see why.
If you didn't need to marry me for me being here, you think you want to marry me?
No, I don't have any big need to get married in life. I've done it.
If Sean's still like this until the end of the 9 days, I don't know if I want to marry him.
But also, he did bring her to the US, so they have a lot to figure out. Now that you have more background information of these two from Love in Paradise, does it change how you feel about the success of this couple? I don't know if they're just waiting to explain some of these things throughout the season. Maybe this is going to be some big reveal where we meet Sean's friend he was talking to in their open relationship in the US. That has to come up at some point because Aaliyah's transformation from Douglas is important, but those things about Sean I think are just as important. I also think that the power dynamic of their age gap plays a lot bigger of a role in this than they kind of make it out to. Like, take out that Alliya became Alliya, 25-year-old, when he's 61, I think 62 now in 90 Day Fiancé. Sean does seem to be supportive of Alliya being Alliya, and then Alliya is becoming this more confident person to be who she is. I would love to say, yes, they work this out, they have a very happy, great relationship, they get married, everything's great. But there are so many factors here that make me think that it's going to be very difficult for them to get to that point. And now his family finding out about Alliya and that whole thing. So are you rooting for this couple? Do you want them to work out? Let me know what you think. Also, you can now join my channel. If you would like to be awesome, you will have things like early access to some of my videos, little badges. I'm working on some emojis right now. Make sure to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. And also, this is my QR code to my Snapchat. Make sure to follow my public profile. I will be posting often on there. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye!